At their peak, these guys turned haggling into primetime thunder, millions of people watching a pawn ticket. So how did the kings of cable lose the crown? Today, we're unpacking how a once unstoppable franchise slowed down and what that really says about TV. The rise was wild. In the early 2000s, the show wasn't just big for its network. It defined the network and sat near the top of reality TV. But audiences didn't vanish overnight. They thinned out as attention splintered across platforms. What felt like a surprise in 2010 started to feel familiar by the mid-2010s, and familiarity is the enemy of curiosity. But that wasn't the whole story. Early on, anything could happen. A stranger walks in, an expert drops a jaw-clenching verdict, a last-second counter lands. Over time, the beats got too clean. Viewers kept asking, "Call an expert. Again?" The rhythm turned predictable, and the perfect specialist on speed dial gag stopped feeling like luck and started feeling like a script. Behind the scenes, the reality is controlled. The shop tightens access during filming, sellers are pre-screened, and scenes are slotted to keep production running. Necessary for TV? Sure, but it chips away at the street-level magic of a true walk-in. Then there's the split between what you see and what you visit. On screen, it's quiet and curated. In person, many describe a tight tourist stop heavy on merch and selfies. Once you notice that gap, the show's sparkle looks more like a set than a surprise. And then the voice of the room went silent. Richard, the old man. Harrison did more than grumble. He anchored the place. Dry, blunt, and unblinking, he could freeze a bad deal with a stare. When he passed in 2018, the chemistry changed. You can keep the format, the experts, even the one-liners, but you can't replace the gravity that made every yes or no feel final. Fans felt that shift instantly, and turbulence kept coming from outside the shop. The franchise kept rolling, but real life intruded. Chumley resolved a 2016 case with a plea and probation. Rick faced a public family dispute in 2022 over business matters. He denied the claims. Corey got tagged with a late-night stop he said he'd fight. Then, in 2024, the family suffered a devastating loss when Rick's son Adam died from an accidental OD. None of this played like an episode. It was life, and it colored how casual viewers perceived the brand. So the show tried to reinvent the hunt. Cable ratings no longer looked like the early decade highs. Think hundreds of thousands, not millions. So the brand hit the road with a travel spin, taking the haggling to pop-ups around the country and meeting audiences on streaming. Meanwhile, the official channel leaned into mega compilations and countdowns. It kept the feed warm, but it also trained viewers to expect recycled highs instead of fresh day-in-the-shop moments. And another perception problem crept in. Many specialists appear for exposure rather than a check, which keeps costs tidy. But to viewers, it can make verdicts feel tilted toward the house. Even with the pivot, one more turn was coming. By early 2025, things hit hiatus. The old TV deal was done, with talk of a possible Pawn Stars 2.0. Translation: the name isn't dead, but the original arrangement is. Add in cast fatigue. Corey has hinted at not wanting to keep playing a role. And the audience hears one message: the era that made this a phenomenon is over, and the future is TBD. So did it really fall off, or did TV change first? Look past cable, and the brand still draws interest in bundles and back catalogs. What changed is the culture around it. Fewer true surprises, more formula, and a format you can find everywhere now. When the anyone can walk in mystique becomes scheduled TV, negotiations start to feel like varsity versus rookie. The show didn't crash. It matured in a world that stopped gathering around cable at 10 p.m. Fell off is one way to say it. Another, the pawn game grew up while TV moved on. The Polish made it feel engineered. The old man's absence took away the room's gravity. Off-screen headlines nudged fans' focus, and the channel's own strategy leaned on replays. Reinvention is still possible, but it would mean breaking the very pattern that made it famous. Fewer perfect experts, more imperfect discovery, and real tension you can't pre-schedule.